Today I give the third eye the third degree. Hello everyone and welcome to RotD Review of the Day, and today I am reviewing the 2017 Indonesian horror film The Third Eye, or Mata Batin, depends on what promotional material you're looking at. I kind of see it both ways, but IMDb and Netflix both has this listed as The Third Eye. These reviews are in English and probably catered more to a Western audience. I'm going to say The Third Eye. So, this was an interesting one for me. If you watch my channel, you know I love Asian horror, nothing new there. But this is my second only exposure to Indonesian horror films, the first being Satan's Slaves, which I loved. So I was kind of eager to get more exposure to this. And what I wound up finding was an interesting film that had many, many flaws. And to get into what those flaws were, and to what the storyline was, and to what I liked about it and didn't like about it, let's get into the categories. As always, 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. The plot of this one followed a young woman whose parents recently passed away. And she takes her boyfriend and her younger sister, and basically moves back into the family home. She was living in Bangkok and moves back to Jakarta to live in the rural, outside the city family home. Now, once she's there with her family and trying to mourn and pick up the pieces of her life and try to figure out what this new life is going to be, her sister is insisting that they shouldn't be there, that there are things there that might be scary or want to harm them, and those things start to be experienced. And then the whole concept of the third eye starts entering into it when she is exasperated by the level of perception difference between her sister and herself, and makes efforts to open her own third eye and get exposed to those spiritual things, so she can at least see what the threats are. And the movie takes off from there. Now, this movie, if I had to really give the plot a major point against it, it would be that this really felt like, well, first of all, there wasn't an entirely original concept, but second of all, it was a multitude of not very original concepts that were kind of pieced together. And I'm not going to say haphazardly, but what I am going to say is you had these different concepts, and you could see the seams between them. It wasn't seamless. It didn't flow naturally and transition from one concept into the other without any kind of transition artifacts. You could see the seams in the storyline, and it was trying to hop from one foot to the other, and I would say that it didn't do it terribly gracefully. I wound up giving the plot a 13 out of 25 points. I thought the characters were probably the thing that I liked the most about it. They were well written, but as far as the situations, not quite so much, and that was a huge portion of the movie. Now, the intent, this was obviously intending to be a genuinely start to finish, ramp it up, scary movie, and in that, I don't think it really succeeded all that well. Some of the scares did work, most didn't. And the shocking reveals of the plot that I think that they were expecting to take the audience on a roller coaster ride, I kind of saw them coming a mile away, and it was less being surprised and shocked and on this thrill ride as just kind of, wonder when that's going to get revealed. And there it was. Okay, that's revealed. Now moving on. So, yeah, it just, I gave the intent an 11 out of 25. For the scares that did work, I wasn't willing to give it any less than that, because they were pretty genuine and pretty good. But the ones that didn't, it's not that they just didn't work. They fell pretty darn flat entirely. So I really couldn't give it any more than that. And as the acting, I think was actually kind of the highlight of this movie. Jessica Mila as Aaliyah, the main character's sister. Bianca Hello as Abel, her younger sister. I thought did a phenomenal job. They really sold the movie in whatever level of success it had. I think it owes to those two, as well as a pretty decent supporting cast. The acting I gave a 17 out of 25. Yeah, genuinely surprised, and I love the performances. I really have nothing against the acting in this one. So on that level, I thought the movie was a pretty big success. Now, to get into the technical, I think this is one of the things. I'm not going to give it like a 0, but it is the topic that is most needing to be discussed about this movie. One of my bigger complaints about a previous movie called Ghost House that was set in Thailand. One of my bigger complaints about it was the fact that it did not take advantage of the setting and the scenery and showcase the majesty that is Thailand. I think there's a number of reasons why I really want that. I mean, first of all, it's a gorgeous country and you just like to see the sight of it. Second of all, I think that it provides an interesting contrast when you have characters going down the rabbit hole. A lot of times it helps to have a baseline. Who are these characters? What are their personalities like before they encounter this conflict? What is the environment around them like? And I think showing the beautiful scenery of the country that they're in and the setting around them establishes a sense of who the character was prior, and then as color palettes change and things go from lush green to more darkish gray kind of thing, then it brings the audience along with that in a very subtle way. I think there's a lot to that. If you're going to have a movie set in a beautiful scene and background, it really helps to showcase this. And this movie, The Third Eye, really did that. The showcasing of Indonesia, Jakarta, the surrounding countryside, was gorgeous. I loved that element of this movie, and I thought that worked really, really well. However, there were major problems with the other aspects of the technical on this one. First of all, I think most noteworthy is the CG was laughably bad. And I mean that in the most genuine sense, as in when you saw a creature crawling up the stairs, the CG of it made me laugh. And I felt bad about that. I mean, I was watching it with a group of friends. It was part of a 24-hour marathon that I host. And we all laughed, and the person, Rotted Soul Scotty, he brought this to our attention, and you could see almost like the pained, I know, I'm sorry kind of look on his face when that scene showed up. And there were many scenes like that. And like I said, some of the scares worked, but scenes like this, it's not that they just didn't work and they weren't scary, they broke the immersion. So that was a pretty major issue with this. When they did physical effects, it actually was pretty good, but the CG, absolutely terrible to the point of distracting and breaking immersion. And lastly, with the technical, there were some issues with continuity, and pretty big issues. There was one scene in particular where it was the same conversation between two characters. It was actually the two sisters, and all they did was switch cameras to establish different angles. So, it would go from camera A to camera B to camera A to camera B. And when they did that, the headphones would be on one character, which was actually an important, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal, except it was an important plot point. She used the headphones to drown out the noise of her third eye perception. So headphones would be on, camera A, headphones would be down on her neck, camera B. And she'd be mid-sentence and boom, 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 boom. And as soon as I noticed that, I pointed it out, and then it just kept happening for 2 or 3 solid minutes, to the point where every time it switched from one camera to the other, my group and I were just busting a gut laughing, which made it a fun watch, but not a horror movie experience. So, I mean, continuity issues like that are a glaring oversight and really should have been caught. And honestly, if it was just passed on through, if somebody did notice, it was like, well, we need the two different camera angles because in this shot it worked and in this shot it didn't. They should have found a way around it. Besides, actually, they should have picked one footage or another and found a way to clean it up. I don't know, but it should never have gone to print like that. That's my point. So the technical overall, wrapping everything up and doing all the math and arithmetic and so forth, I gave an 8 out of 25, which gives us a grand total of 49 out of 100 points for The Third Eye. I do not, where do I land with this one? I can't say as I would really recommend it, but if somebody was coming to me with more of a specific, if somebody was coming to me and saying, hey, I saw this Satan Slaves and I want a movie to contrast that with, I want to be exposed to more Indonesian horror, I saw that Netflix has The Third Eye, what do you think? Should I watch it? I would say, in that case, yeah, go for it. If somebody came to me and said, hey, I want to watch just a genuinely scary movie, it probably wouldn't be very high up on my list to recommend. So that should about do it for The Third Eye. I really thank you for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. If you like these videos, I encourage you to please click subscribe. And remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.